So this is the question. What is the situation with the tariffs? I'm going to tell you what the situation is with the tariffs so that you understand, right? So that you understand the situation that we're in. And frankly, you've heard the news. Brazil, 50%. Canada, 35%. Mexico, 30%, right? Europe, 30%. Lots of it, right? So what I want you to understand is that Trump is going to collect the money and he's going to collect big time. What is really going on? Well, I will tell you this. Right now, economists expect stronger growth and lower risk of recession and cooler inflation than they did 3 months ago, according to the Wall Street Journal. The reason the journal previous survey was conducted at the height of the president's threats to impose eye-watering tariffs on America's biggest trading partners. He posed some of the tariffs shortly after. Whether the improved mood lasts remains to be seen. This past week, Trump told numerous trading partners, Brazil, Canada, Mexico, European Union, that they would face higher tariffs starting August 1st unless we are able to negotiate. Okay? So right now, it's all going forward. Okay? We're having huge impact. Okay? Brazil is going to be 50%. I'm going to tell you very quickly. I mean, you probably heard about these news. Then I'm going to tell you what this is going to mean. Canada, 35%. Mexico, 30%. Europe, 30%. These are huge numbers. I mean, imagine you're paying $1 for eggs. Now you're paying $1.30. So the price is going to go up a lot. And it's all scheduled for August 1st. Yes. You are here to learn. I'm here to explain to you what's happening, right? So essentially, also what you need to realize is this, that we have a situation where the money has started to come in big time. Trump is making lots of money right now. Okay, why do you care? Well, because that means that as long as money is coming in, they are going to keep liking it. What do I mean by that? After running a $360 billion benefit in May, deficit, the government has for the first time a surplus of over $27 billion last month. So the tariff windfall is starting to come in. It is actually working. The money is coming in. The money is coming into the US because of all the tariffs that are being impacted. What does that mean? It means a key driver of the improved balance was a record-breaking surge in custom duties. The money is coming in. It is working, my friends. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I come to you every day telling you exactly what is really happening. Not so much what they're telling you. You know, we all know what you hear the news. But I'm here to really explain to you what is happening underneath the second layer of information, and more importantly, what's going to happen next. Because if you want to make money in this world, you don't make money by simply buying what everybody else is buying. You need to buy what everybody is selling. Alexander and the Diet Joe Man is here. Then we could start this conversation. And this conversation is very important. Why? Because Trump has gone wild. He has gone wild with 30 to 50% tariffs. Now, of course, there are a lot of people say, can he do this? Can he actually do this? Well, who is going to stop him? Okay? Who is going to stop him? Right now, the market is up. And you know what else I just found out? Which I think, they probably didn't want to print that article, but basically, there was a real economist survey that sees lower recession risk and stronger job growth. So if you're saying, I'm not going to invest in the stock market because Trump is a crazy man, be careful. You might lose an opportunity, because right now it doesn't look like we have a recession risk anymore. We don't have a recession risk. The Wall Street Journal surveyed 69 analysts, right? And he asked them, hey, what do you think? What do you think the likelihood is of a recession in the US because we have a crazy president? Well, over the next 12 months, they think 33%, down from 45%. And you know why it's happening? Because the US consumer is consuming. He's not stopping. She's not stopping. Okay. So as long that is happening, this is strong. Now, why is this important? It is important because imagine yourself just for a second. You are the president of Mexico. Okay. Where you are sending $800 billion of export to the U.S. That's Mexico and Europe, two main trading partners for the U.S. You are sending $800 and $900 billion from Mexico to the U.S. The guy tells you from now on, I'm going to charge you 30%, which is what he's saying on August 1st, because the border is not safe, because illegal aliens, because of fentanyl, whatever reason he's using, which is not, that's the news that they're giving you, but the real news is that he just wants to collect the money. Trump is very efficient that way. You're the president, you're going to say, you know what, I don't agree, and I want to charge you back. You're charging me back. I'm not buying anything from you. I'm not sending you anything. So you're going to get hurt. You are going to go into a recession if my people don't spend money in Mexico, with the Mexican money coming in, the 30%. So therefore, you have no choice. You have no choice but to agree. Maybe it's not going to be 30% on August 1st because they're probably negotiating like mad. One thing they don't want to do, what they do not want to do, is tell Trump, you know what, then I'm going to charge you 30%. You may act tough, but that's not going to work. Why? Because he has all the cards, and he's right. He's taking $800 billion, sending to your countries every day, and now he wants 30% of that. So you're going to have to agree to some sort of agreement. And what she's been doing, the president of Mexico, I mean, she's been trying very hard. You know, they sent 10,000 soldiers down there to help them out, to clean up the place, to see what they could do. She's done a lot. The only thing he's saying, no, that's not good enough. And she said, but I thought we were talking. I thought we were discussing. He says, no, we're not discussing anything. It's 30% and you're not working fast enough. The thing is, you assume that Trump wants to actually stop the flow of the fentanyl and the drug. No, you will never do enough job to stop it. What he wants the money. He wants the money coming into the U.S. Do you know how much money the U.S. is actually bringing in right now? Okay, the U.S. right now has already collected $100 billion in tariffs revenue for the year and is on track to reach another $300 million at the end of the year, okay? So year to date, 100 billion. So by the end of the year, 200 billion, 300 billion. The surge in revenue comes from the Trump sweeping tariffs measures: steel, aluminum, auto, copper, semiconductor, pharmaceutical. It's crazy, okay? And the long-term implication, we are talking about $2 trillion in tariffs. Now, of course, you're going to say, well, this is so easy. Why don't we all do this? Just tariff the heck out of people to collect the money. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. This is important for you. You may not like this particular topic, right? You may not care about the tariffs, but I talk about stocks. I talk about the Israel-Iran war, which is going to come up next. I'm going to talk about that. I'm giving you advice on stocks. Join my Patreon channel. I just bought two interesting stocks. Google Cloud Technology, GCT, very nice small cap stock, low debt, low valuation, strong growth. Nobody's paying attention. Don't forget, you want to ride this wave, because the market is going to go up for a while. Why? Because no one is able to stop this machine. The American consumer is buying. So when you have that kind of a power, right, you could walk around and you can't just say, I don't want $800 billion if you're the Mexican president, like I told you, because she has no choice but to agree with Trump. Now, Europe is also going to get 30%, right? And Europe is saying, well, you know what? I am not going to agree to this. I am going to go against it. I'm going to do retaliatory tariff. Okay. Before you start talking, be careful. You have a strong U.S. consumer. You're going to lose that consumer, right? Because what's happening, if you charging Trump 30% for the tariffs for the stuff that's going in to Europe. So it's a tariff war, right? You're going to lose out. Nobody's buying anything because then Trump is going to say, you know what, it's not 30%, it's going to be 100%. So now you're selling to the US. Can you really afford? The reason Trump is winning right now is because he's dealing with politician people, right? And they are worried about their job or their career after, what happens after them, right? What are they going to do? Because for them, they don't really care whether or not the 30% or the 50%, right? What they care mostly is that they appear as if they're trying to do something to fight this quote unquote bully that they call, right? Because he's overcharging them, okay? The thing is, one thing they don't want to come across as, well, you put us in a recession. Why? Well, because he was charging us 30%. Now you afford him 30% because you charge him 30%, and then now you charge you 100%, and we can't sell anything at 100% markup. It's impossible. So now we just lost the U.S. market. So now all our people have no jobs. So now we are in a recession. These people can't afford something like that. Can Trump afford it? He doesn't care. This is it for him. This is the end of the road, right? He's gambling all of it at the same time. And it's working because in front of him, he doesn't have people like it. You know that Trump makes $400,000, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel, by the way. Trump makes $400,000 and he gave it all away. So for him, that's not what matters. What matters for him is to prove that he could make it, to prove that he could change it to his will. And these people that he has in front of him, nobody's going to say, no, you know what? I'm not doing this. Because there's nothing to gain, right? Now, of course, you're going to say, but the U.S. is going to get hurt because now you can't sell your stuff to Europe and to Canada, right? You don't want that either. Fine, let's take a chance. Who's going to last longer? And by the way, the U.S., as I just told you before, is not about to get into a recession. So why not? The U.S. is collecting money. So at home, no one is going to say no to him. Nobody's going to say no to Trump in the U.S. It's impossible. The Democrats are gone. They have lost all credibility. The market is up. The people that he has around him, frankly, they're really close. And if somebody's not close to him, Vice President, remember him? Have you seen him recently? Hey, Bibi. They all follow Bibi. Well, we'll talk about Bibi later on because there's something to be said about. There's something to be said about the Iran and Israel war. By the way, this thing is going to heat up, and this is going to hit again because Trump is going to say, you know what, I could do anything wrong. So now, in fact, he mentioned it. And I don't want to talk about this too much, and this is about tariffs. And tomorrow and the day after, we're going to talk about the Iran-Israel thing. But I think that they're getting ready to get back in there. I think Trump is getting to go back in there. He's going to say, you know what, I want to check this 800-pound thing that people told me that I lost, right? I'm going to show you that it's gone, or I'm going to find it. And if you don't allow me to get in there, I'm going to start bombing it. But right now, the topic is tariffs. And the tariffs, my friend, you don't want to lose that opportunity. Why do you care about the tariffs? You care about the tariffs because the market is going to be going up. Why? No recession. I mean, I've just told you, there's a survey of economists from the Wall Street Journal that basically says that, well, the risk of recession has actually gone down. 2, he is collecting $300 billion this year and as much as $2 trillion going over. Who is going to argue that fact? But you say, well, that's not fair, right? How could he do that? Well, he could do that because he can and because he dared doing it and because the people that he has in front of him are basically politicians. I'm going to tell you 4 things that are going to happen next, right? What's going to happen? Trump is going to keep collecting, even after August 1st, right? Even after the 30%, they're going to give him something, and he's going to find something else. He's going to say, okay, it's not going to be 30%, it's going to be 25, it's going to be 20. But don't forget, these people were paying 3%, okay? I have a chart, and too bad I can't show you, but basically, the way it looks like, on April 2nd, the weighted average of the tariff rates was 30%. Oh my God. And that's where the market, because this is never going to work. Now, June 20th, when you announce that, okay, no, let's talk about it, the average became 18%. But now, the August 1st is around 25%. So assume 25% tariffs. Assume that the first thing that collects 300 billion this year, okay, maybe even more, okay. Two, the countries, Mexico and Europe and Brazil, I mean 50%, will complain, right? But they'll complain because they have to complain, because if you're an elected official, you can't just say yes, okay, fine. You're gonna say no, I disagree. This is wrong. You can't run around and abuse us like that. We don't agree. We don't agree. And what's going to happen is they're basically going to say that I don't agree, but we don't agree, and we don't agree, and you're going to fight him back. Well, no, I didn't say that. I'm not going to charge him because now we have the races, but I'm going to show you that I'm trying to. But at the end of the day, we'll keep talking and talking and paying and talking and paying and talking and paying, and they hope that Trump goes away, basically. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, okay? And like this video if that's possible. If you like it, I'm going to tell you something that you don't know, okay? I'm going to explain to you what's happening, and hopefully see what happens next, because we're trying to make some money here and try to understand what's happening and make sure we are informed at least, so we live in a world where we kind of understand what's happening. Because right now, quite frankly, apart from the news, which you could get that 24/7, I mean, imagine Bloomberg and CNBC, they're open 24/7. They always have something to say. Really? Is it that valuable all the time for you, or is it valuable for them? Now, it's valuable for them because what it is, the more you watch, the more they get paid. And they are going to tell you that everything is going to be great and you should keep investing. And Trump did this and Trump did that. The thing is, depending where they are in the thinking, right? If you're CNBC is kind of in the middle, but if you're MSNBC, if you're Bloomberg, and even the Wall Street Journal, they are way off Trump, right? They really to the right now, and they could show you argument that this is no good, this is no good, this is no good. The bottom is, when everybody's talking, everybody's complaining, the U.S. is collecting 300 billion this year, and probably if this keeps going up to $2 trillion. This is pissing off everyone in creation, but you cannot do anything about it because you're not dealing with somebody like you. He has maybe, what? He's 79 years old. He has no one in his surrounding that's going to say no to him. The Democrats cannot say no. The people are not saying no because the stock market is up and we don't have a recession. So everything is flowing right. So what are the next thing that happens next? The countries will complain, but they will pay. What happens after that? The market will go up. The stock market will go up. The market is up already, right? The market is, well, I shouldn't say the market is not up. I will post on my live feed, the stock market worldwide, but the market was up a little bit in April, then it collapsed, then it went back up, right? So the market is, Europe is doing better than the US right now, okay? And then the money will keep coming in, and the more the money coming, the less people are going to be complaining. And the more he's going to say, look, it's working. What do you want? Now, this is very shrewd, right? This is crude and shrewd, like what he's doing to Mexico. I mean, she's really trying to help him. Or what he's doing in Brazil, where he's saying, you know what? You're picking on this guy, the former president of Brazil, and you're trying to prosecute him because of what you think he's saying. This is not true. 50% for you. Now, of course, Brazil a little bit different because the U.S. actually export more to Brazil than it's importing from Brazil. Maybe some coffee and something. So that's not much of anything. But even that, the presidents, these guys can't say no, and they say, well, this is not going to happen. You're not an emperor. I am not an emperor. You keep talking like that, it's going to be 100%. Why is he getting away with it? And this is a good lesson for you. I mean, regardless if you like Trump or you don't like Trump, right? This shows you that it is only business. I know that you've probably seen the Godfather, right? Remember at some point, and the guy tells him that this is only business. It is only business. When Trump says things like, there's too much fentanyl, the former Brazil president mistreatment, there's too many illegals, there's a trade deficit. No, this is what he tells you. He tells them and they report to you, right? And the news is he wants to stop the fentanyl and this is not fair. And why would he do something like that? They're keeping you busy here. While there is where the action is. There is where they're collecting $300 billion a year. Every day they're collecting more and more and more. The money is, and the more the money is coming in, the more he could do whatever he wants. The issue that you need to worry about, like everything else, right? When something works great, something works well, what are the, and this is what this channel is about, so don't forget to subscribe. What we're looking for is, okay, great, so what could go wrong? Let's make sure we understand, not to wish that it's going to go wrong. Let's make sure we understand what could possibly go wrong, right? So that we are prepared for it. Because remember, the way you make money in the stock market, especially in business also, is that you need to know, protect yourself when it goes bad, right? In the stock market, Fed Nagel and with his hedge fund, Universa, they made 4,000%. They made 4,000% with COVID. Right? So why? So you can't feel smart. You can't. No. You're right. I agree. You cannot prepare for. You cannot prepare. You may feel smart about it, but one thing that the philosopher Aristotle said is that you should know, and Trading 101 knows, you should know every morning when you get up that you don't know. Because if you start getting up in the morning and say, I know what's going to happen, like probably Trump gets up in the morning and say, you know what, these people are going to pay. Yeah, they're going to pay, but be careful. There's also the possibility, especially from the European, okay, because they don't really care because they have job for life, right? So they are also about 900 billion in trades with the U.S., just same as Mexico. They may decide to hit Trump with it. And don't forget, we keep talking about trade, right? What we're really talking about is, we're not talking about services, right? We're talking, stuff, physical stuff, right? But the money, where the U.S. is making lots of money by exporting, right? What we're exporting is services. You're talking about Google. You're talking about, Amazon and Netflix and, all these things, huge, a lot more money. I think it's 3/4 is from that, really. Now, no one has touched that, right? Because the European could say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to start whenever some French person, Italian person is watching Netflix, we want 30% of that. Time is an investor best friend. Nothing else really matters. True. You need to look forward. You need to wait, right? But you need to know, I mean, it depends what kind of investor you are. Are you a trader? So then everything matters for Monday morning, right? Are you long term? I am more concerned about the long term than the short term. The short term, like I said, I mean, the streets are open for Trump and for the money coming in, and for the U.S. consumer is spending money. There is no concern about the U.S. consumer right now. The U.S. consumer is strong, right? On average, they expect gross domestic product adjusted for inflation to 1%. So on average, this put the probability of a recession about 33%, but they always all been wrong. The improved outlook follows 3 months of generally encouraging economic data. Job growth was 150,000 in the US for the past 3 months. So we're not near recession. So we have no recession in the cards right now in the US. And unemployment is at 4.1%. So what does this mean? Well, it means that if you're Trump, right, you say, listen, this is what I have. I have a strong economy in my hands, right? And I'm giving you access to it. You want access to it? It's 30% if you're Mexico, unless you make sure that there's no fentanyl coming in and you kill all the drug lords and you do all these things. And maybe I give you a little bit less. Okay, fine, you did it. You were okay, and you didn't. I give you 25%. Europe, 30%. Canada, you have to stop complaining. You have 35% already. And do not talk to me about fighting back. You pay, and if you're quiet, maybe I give you 30%, right? That's what he has. Now, the only thing that could hurt Trump is this, is that you don't have the economy. There's a recession. Now, if you have a recession, then you have nothing to bargain with. The thing also you have to be careful, right? If you're charging 30% for these people and they decide to pay you the 30%, that's okay, right? The thing is, if there is a fight, if somebody says, no, I am not going to do it because of the principle of the thing that you're abusing us, then, then, then there's no trade, right? Then the US can't sell, right, all that stuff to Europe and vice versa. So then they're both shrinking. Now, if they're both shrinking, then there's definitely no recession for there's a recession for the US, nothing to be sold, and they're going to shrink even faster. So then nobody wins, right? It's either nobody wins or Trump wins. What do you want? You rather not win? I mean, I am reading the news because I have to bring some element of reality. But the thing that they're not telling you is that at the end of the day, what Trump is really thinking. Trump doesn't have the upper end. Well, I don't know. I mean, Quentin says he doesn't have. You're unsubscribing. Okay, goodbye. I mean, I can't. I mean, I can't tell you what you want to hear, right? And I'm not here to tell you the news and tell you what you want to hear. I am telling you to have a discussion, right? You're not going to get that if you listen to CNBC, right? You're not going to get that if you listen to Bloomberg. What you're going to get, they're going to tell you, yes, I am the portfolio manager, blah, 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 and I think that you should buy this stock. And you're going to say, oh, great, thank you. So you're portfolio manager, obviously you know what you're talking about. What he doesn't tell you is I have this stock, I got 50 other stock. I know because I work with these people, right? I got 50 other stocks, right? So where is the volatility? Where is the diversification? You have no idea. And what they should do, you know, every time they come in, and you're going to test me, come back later on, see what happens. But I've been saying all along that Trump is going to collect on that money for the longest time and nothing is going to stop him. That's what I've been saying. You go each time, ask them, hey, before you start talking, manager of wherever you are, that you go on Bloomberg, what is your record? What is your record in terms of actually, you know, beating the market? 80% of these people, and you could check Trading 101, check it. They do not beat the market. Why don't they beat the market? Because it's impossible to beat the market because no one knows what's going to happen. The way you make money in the stock market is not by looking at winners, is by avoiding the losers and avoiding the actual black swan. You want to avoid COVID, right? Well, how could I avoid COVID? I have a portfolio of $3.5 million. Do I sell everything and then hope that nothing happens? No. You protect your book. You protect your portfolio. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel because Trading 101 is just leaving us. So I need more people to join to replace him because I need to have discussion and I need to explain to you what's going on. I come to you every day, right? I come every day and I talk about topics. Now, obviously, nobody always want to hear some different views, but you need to be exposed to different type of thinking. Otherwise, you don't learn. But I agree with him that at the end of the day, when you get up in the morning, you should never think that you know what you want. Like, for example, Trump right now probably feels great, right? What's driving him? What's driving Trump, right? What's driving him, he has nothing to lose. And that, I mean, I don't think that he wants to destroy anything. I think he really wants to make money for his people. I think he loves America and all these things, and he loves himself even more. And it's working, right? Now, keep in mind that but he's taking gambles here, right? Because suppose all these countries say, you know what, I am going to retaliate and I'm going to charge you. You can't do that. They all say that, but I think they're saying that for political reasons so they don't lose their job. But at the end of the day, they can't do it. So they're going to go back, they're going to retaliate. That's not going to happen. So what is Trump going to do? What's going to happen? What is Trump going to do? Well, basically, he loves it. This is working. The thing you have to worry about is what he almost did when he went with Iran and Israel. And again, I'll do a live on that. That was a problem, my friends. That was a big problem. Why? Because he almost got the US into another war. The same way you could have a trade war. But there again, it didn't happen. Why it didn't happen? Well, because what is Iran going to do, frankly? Well, they want to build the atomic bomb. Well, I mean, this is another story really where they're basically telling you Iran wants to bomb to destroy Israel. But I'm sure Iran knows it and Israel knows it too, in the US, that this is a story for mass consumption, right? They're never going to do it. They won't have the time to do it. They want to do it so they could collect $2 trillion to say that they're making it. But that's not what's happening. The moment the silo opens up to bomb Israel, they'll be destroyed because, they could see what's happening from from miles away. So that is not the story. That is something I want my subscribers to understand, is that what is the real story? And unfortunately, unless you talk to people in the street or listen to this channel, it's difficult to have a discussion because all of these people that are talking to you and delivering the news to you have an agenda, right? They hear, if you're CNBC, right, and you're starting to be very, very negative towards Trump, and you're saying, you suck, this is horrible what you're doing to these people, and the 30%, the 50%, what do you think is going to happen? The Trump is saying, you know what, we're not going over there. Don't go over there. And frankly, if you look, every time Trump comes out and says something, Mexico is weeks away from financial default, according to PM Beam. Yeah, you got to be careful. $800 billion, $800 billion. You don't want to lose that. Fine. Then instead of getting 800 billion, maybe you negotiate, you give him what he wants, and you pay 20%, and maybe you don't make 800, you made 700. But you want to make zero? You make, because Trump could say, you know what, you're retaliating, then I'm 100% tariff for you. So now you're not selling anything to the U.S. And the U.S. is strong, is very strong. What are you going to do? You're going to, what can you do? You have no choice but to agree. Now, how do you fight against something like that, right? How do you, if you're the president of your country, how do you manage something like that? You keep talking. You keep talking. You keep paying. You keep paying, right? Until it passes. Because they here and he's there. It's different mentality, or something happens here, right? Maybe he starts something with Iran, which frankly he's dying to, and he almost started it, and then there's a war, and then you have to put boots on the ground, and then he loses the MAGA movement, and then he loses power, and people don't stick to him because they say he becomes toxic, and then he starts to weaken, and then you could say, you know what, we're not paying the 30%, and then you know what I mean? But right now, that's not happening because he's holding this whole thing with his two hands, right? And don't forget, he got shot. He got up and so just that alone, it takes someone to really, manage that kind of expectation. Although you may think that, it was planned or whatever. I doubt it very much that it was planned, right? But anyway, let's not even talk about that. The thing is, for you as an investor, for you as a person, for you in the job, you need to understand what's happening because this will have implication. Obviously, things are going to be more expensive coming out. Now, the question is, and this is where it becomes extremely interesting, is that wondering, but we were supposed to have inflation, and there's no inflation. Because then you could have said to Trump, look, what you're doing, you're complaining about Biden, but there's inflation, but the inflation is not coming in. But how could there be inflation if these people are paying, right? If Mexico is taking 30% in and they're paying the 30% and they're not pushing it down, right? The wholesalers, right? Because the wholesalers could say, listen, whoever, let's say they're selling tomatoes. Well, the tomatoes just got 30% more expensive. Even if you do that, some of them have tried. Trump will turn around and said, what are you doing? What are you doing? So they can't even do that either. And even their government is going to say, I mean, if you're giving them inflation, then Trump can't go that it's working. And you know what I mean? So that's the reason why inflation is not getting through the system either. I mean, I'm not saying it's 100%, but it's difficult to push it through when you know this guy's watching, right? And even if they push down, so Trump is watching them here, right, with the president. Then he's watching them when, and this is how minute is it. Then he's pushing down when they are trying to, the wholesaler will raise the price to the retailer, like Walmart. Then Trump is going to watch Walmart, and he'll say, boss, I mean, they just they just increased the tomato by 30%. I got to increase the prices of the tomatoes, otherwise I can't make a profit. Then he's going to go after them. Don't forget, he went after them for a while. Coffee is going to be very expensive in the US. That's what Dennis says, and I agree. I agree. And you know why I agree? Because Brazil is being charged 50%, and we do bring a lot of coffee from Brazil. But Brazil is a different animal altogether, because there, the US is exporting more than it's importing. So when they're going to do 50%, then this guy is going to do 50%. That's going to make the coffee more expensive, because he has, plus you have to understand, the Mexicans, the Brazilian one way of thinking, the Mexican think another way, European think of Canada, they're all different people, right? And they're all thinking differently. But the point is I'm trying to make with you is that Trump is going to hit the presidents, then he's hitting the wholesalers, then he's hitting the retailer. If you're Walmart and you start charging the tomatoes at 30%, he's going to say, what are you doing? What is Trump? What is Walmart? Walmart is now against the American way of life or whatever. Do you really want that? So his technique, and that's the technique, is I do not care. You care more than I do. This is business for me. And nobody wants, I mean, you got to wonder where he gets the energy, quite frankly. So he's holding everything. He's holding the presidents, the wholesalers, the retailers. Now, he's not holding everyone, but he's holding the major one, right? You don't hear him talking about Ethiopia, because they're getting their letters too, probably, right? He's talking about Europe, he's talking about Canada, he's talking about Mexico, Brazil, maybe, right? He's talking about these countries because that's what he could control. That's what he wants to control, and that's how it happens. But how far? The question for you as an investor is, Canada, Rohan Garcia says, Canada has played nice so far only while they secure the buyers, but once done, they'll pull out completely. Wow, and they couldn't care less. Yeah, inflation. Yeah, well, and that's true, because what's going to happen is, and that's what they're kind of doing, I think. They're basically saying, you know what? Okay, fine. Yes, pay him. You can't argue with the man. We need to find another way to sell our stuff. The only thing is, who are you going to sell it to? If you're a French winemaker, again, it doesn't work for all the industries, but if you're a French winemaker and you've been selling wine at expensive wine to the US for so many years, and now you're getting hit with 30%, you're going to say what? I'm going to sell wine to Spain? I'm going to sell wine to China? Not that kind of wine and that kind of price. That is not something that's going to happen right away. So that's why I think for a while Trump got this whole thing, the market is going to go up. Now, at some point, and this is the concern, this is a long-term aspect. I think long-term, this is not going to be good for the US, because, as Ron Garcia mentioned, it's going to impact the fact that they're going to do away with the US. I mean, I don't want to hand this way, but on one hand, they'll move away because they can't stand the US, but they had to do it because they were big and bad. But now I found somebody else to sell my stuff. I mean, don't forget, Canadian people, 80% of them are not coming to the US anymore. That's a lot. Okay, so you're hitting people somewhere else beside their wallet. So what's going to happen? They're going to go over there. They're going to buy this. They're going to sell their stuff to someone else. Don't forget China. China needs to deal with the US because China has a huge amount of deflation, right? So they can't deal with anyone else. They have to sell their stuff. That's why they have to deal with the US. They have no choice, because China is building a lot of stuff, right? And they need to sell it to someone. Otherwise, and now right now they have deflation because they have so much stuff they can't sell. So that's why they made the deal, 50%, I think, for China. But eventually they also, at some point, will start trading with India, with South Korea, with, don't forget, there's something called the Circle of Valery Pieris in Asia, where 10% of the land mass is 50% of the world population. Yes, listen, we don't need the US, we could deal with each other. Okay? And that is what you have to be careful. By pissing all these people off, short term, you may be winning. But long term, what's going to happen to the US? And that is the concern. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Inflation, Johnny Cash. I thought he died. Anyway, inflation comes from an increased money supply. The US is running a deficit, so they'll just print more money, which means higher inflation. Bro, he's explaining this to 14 people. Yes. Correct. The US is running a deficit. Well, you know what's going to happen, right? What's going to happen, I don't care about the 12 people. Even if there's one people, once you want to give information, once you want to tell the information, you don't care how many people listen to you. Because I'm not in for that. I'm here to explain to you what's happening. This is the need that I have. I don't know. Tell me, maybe I'm wrong, trying to teach you something here. But what's going to happen is, what he's referring to the amount of debt in the system. Right? The US was $37 trillion. There's $9 trillion that's supposed to be refinanced this year. Where's the US going to find $9 trillion? Well, they're going to go around and ask people for money. Probably not China or Canada for obvious reasons, but a bunch of other countries. And I think they're going to find the money. And even if they don't find the money, Johnny Cash is correct. What they're going to do is they're going to print money as they've done in the past. They have no choice. Or they don't pay, but it can't be. So they're going to print more money, which is called quantitative easing. They're going to print the money and they're going to use it to, basically drink their own Kool-Aid. And what does that mean? Unfortunately, by doing that, you're debasing the dollar. And that's frankly another topic, which is what about the dollar? Well, that's Johnny that mentioned this. I know you're asking me to talk about the dollar, but basically, one thing you should realize, though, they say, the dollar is going to disappear, the dollar is going to get weak. Well, let me tell you something, and I'm checking a chart right now for your benefit only, is right now in foreign exchange volume, 88% is US dollar, 58% of FX reserve, 40% of SWIFT payments. I mean, I hate to tell you that the dollar is not going anywhere soon. Trump is not going anywhere soon. The US economy is still very strong. Do not miss the rise in stock prices. Now, having said all this, I will tell you something that I did find out, which is a little bit worrisome, and I keep figuring out. But you should know that institutional investors right now are selling U.S. equities at a furious pace. So basically, the people that are doing the buying right now is corporate and retail, but hedge funds and institutions are selling. And yet the market is going up, so the other people are making up. So the smart money is getting out. Now, when I said in the future, right, this thing that could happen with them finding another source to make their stuff, some countries finding other source to sell their wares and sell their steel or whatever, like Canada, or they decide to fight back and all these things. When is that going to happen? And then you have a recession, not now, but the market always looks forward. And that's what you should do too. You should look forward. The point is, am I looking 3 months? Am I looking a year? I think right now the market, I think, is looking 1 year, at least. Less than 1 year, actually. It's looking through May. And I tell you why May. Let me tell you why the market is looking through May. Because in May, you're supposed to have a new Fed chair. And we know, if you don't, hopefully you know that, but basically Trump doesn't like the current guy, wants him out. So the market is so positive that whoever Trump puts in there is definitely going to be in his pocket and definitely going to lower rates. So the market is already assuming lower rates. So therefore it's going up. But if you have inflation, as Johnny Cash mentioned, and you're lowering rates, that is not a good combination. Didn't go well in the 80s. So what's going to happen is, the market is going to go up and up and up and up, and then the market is going to look beyond March, beyond May, and it's going to look at June. So by sometime by November or December, they're going to realize, oh my God, what have we done? These people are now don't need us anymore. They have changed their, Mexico is selling their tomatoes to, I don't know, Russia, right? Takes a while to do it, but then they'll do it. And once they've done it, then they don't need the U.S. and the U.S. is going to be left alone. Now, is that possible? Can you remove 350 million people purchasing out of the world? I mean, that's hard to believe. I mean, the share of global GDP is 26%. The United States is 26% of the global GDP. Yeah, you're going to say, oh, they're going to sell this stuff out and they're going to sell it. So you basically say I could get rid of 26% GDP and nobody's going to miss it? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that there's no way this is going to happen this way. So don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Hopefully this is entertaining, but most importantly, I'm trying to put it all together for you. There's a lot of stuff out there, lots of information. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's going from everywhere. But you need to be informed. And you don't be informed by listening to these programs because you should be informed to know where things are. But by definition, right? By definition, how can you possibly talk 24/7? How can you talk 24/7 over and over and over? It's impossible, right? At some point, you're saying things that nobody cares, right? You're just setting an idea. You're setting an idea that you should be in the stock market. You're setting an idea that, oh, look, the stock prices are tied to earnings. That's what they're basically telling you. Earnings goes up, stock market goes up. No, come on. In 1987, there was a stock market crash, right? October 19, 20% drop. The market dropped by 20%. Do you realize that on that day they went out and they asked 1,000 people, 1,000 traders, why did you sell on that day? What made they don't know. The odds of 20% drop in the stock market at that time was 10 to the power of 50. Just to give you an idea, the odds of you winning the lottery is 1 out of 350 million. And in 350 million, there are exactly 6, 7, 8 zeros. This one at 50 zeros. Right? So what does that mean, 1 to the power of 50? That means that it's almost impossible. That means that the stock market by 20% on October 19 is impossible, but yet it happened. It's not so much that it's impossible, it's the fact that they don't know how to calculate. So now, and I'm going to end with this because I don't want to get too complicated, but that means that in statistics, when they say, what are the odds of this happening versus that happening? The statistics basically are wrong. 10 to the power 50, that's not possible. And yet it happens. So you're calculating it wrong. So statistics are wrong. That's right. Statistics are wrong because there's no such thing as normal distribution. What do I mean by that? I mean that if you play with someone with a coin, right, and you keep flipping back and forth, what are the odds that you're going to get tail or the odds that you're going to get face? Heads or tails? Well, you say 50%, obviously. How could you tell me that? Well, because only 2 coins, so that's the only way you could get, right? Well, you could tell me that because of the law of large numbers. The more I'm going to flip this thing, eventually I'm going to get to 50%. Because I'm assuming that the way I flip one, it will not impact, my first flip will not impact my second flip. But that's not true. Not all events are independent. And therefore, if that's the case, therefore it's chaos. You cannot predict anything. In fact, look it up. Some guy actually did 50,000 coin flip, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. He didn't get 50%, like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. He got this, and he got that, and you got this. The numbers were all over the place. The numbers were all over the place. You never got to 50%. So that means, my friends, and I don't want to give you a course of statistics, but that means that statistically speaking, you cannot predict anything because everything is all about chaos theory. It's all over the place, right? One event impacts another event. And this is why in 2008, there was a huge problem with the rating agencies, because the rating agencies, what they did at that time, they said, oh, you know what? We're going to do a model to predict the behavior of the mortgages so that you people could invest in it. And obviously, our model is going to assume that if there is, look it up, if there is a default in New York on a mortgage, it will not impact the mortgage of California. So you're safe. Plus, people pay their mortgage anyway. They were wrong. Everything collapsed at the same time. And that's where you had another stock market crash. And it took years to go back. So you have to be very careful once you get into the market. You have to make sure that you understand that this is a very, very complex. And today we just talk about tariffs, right? And like, look at that, it could be all over the place. Now, once you put the tariffs, because there are 5 major risks that I see. The tariffs is one, and that's gonna, eventually it's gonna go sideways, but not right now. 2, you've got, and I think our friend Johnny Cash mentioned it in a way, it's the debt. How are you gonna pay $37 trillion? 3, and that's the one I want to talk about later on, not today, because that's it. Iran and Israel. We are not done. And if I know Trump, now that up to August 1st, he's going to say, this is working great. I'm going to go here now. 4, the U.S. economy. Be careful. We are not out of the woods yet. Okay? And then 5, inflation. Be careful. We're not out of the woods that either. Right? Because if this doesn't work exactly as planned, and they start pushing down the prices from the wholesaler down to the retailer, and the retailer pushes down to the consumer. Now, the only reason none of this is going to happen right now is because Trump is holding it all together. Now, hopefully he doesn't do like Napoleon and he goes nuts, and he wants to go to Russia and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. The reason you want to subscribe to this channel, because we are going deep into topics that are extremely important for everyone. These are topics that you should understand. You should understand what's happening with the tariffs. You should understand what's happening with the Israel war. That's going to come up. You should understand inflation. The dollar, don't forget the dollar. You need to understand what's happening with the dollar, because you know what? If all these things hits at once, the U.S. will lose its status, right? Because if nobody needs dollars, then nobody buys treasuries. Nobody buys treasuries. The U.S. cannot refinance its debt. And do you know what happened to countries that can't refinance their debt? Look what's happening in Europe right now. France, for example, is in trouble. Greece, remember Greece? You know what they did? They told the retirees, you're not retiring at 65 or 70. People in Italy retire at 70 now. And by the way, the money that you thought you were going to get, you're not getting. You're getting less. So these things impact you. So you need to understand where they are. Don't wait until it impacts you. Say, oh, I didn't know. I wish I knew. Because I'm telling you, these things are going to impact you. And obviously, you want to know that before they actually do impact you, because then what's going to happen is you're going to lose your job, or you're going to lose your portfolio. Okay? So tomorrow I want to talk about stocks that I've selected. Hopefully nothing happens with Israel, so we should be good. At least tomorrow we'll talk about that. Tomorrow we're going to talk about some of the stock selections that I have. And don't forget to join my Patreon channel, because they are in there. It's free. You can join anytime you want, and you're going to love it. So, and that's what you want to do, right? You want to be able to invest in the stock market in a way that you understand. And just to give you a little bit of a preview, what I do there is I look for, because right now the market is up, but one thing that's not really up are these small caps. Market caps with less than $2 billion. That's what you want to invest into because nobody's looking at them. So basically, I look for stock, low PE, growth. I'm looking for growth. No debt. You don't want debt. Okay. And a business that frankly is a bit different that I understand, right? And you look at them and then you like GCT Technology. These are good companies and that's what you should do. And don't forget to subscribe and I will see you